Hello and welcome to the Global Gunslinger League for Wild West Exodus. Today I'm going to be taking you through how to build the Iron Eagle from the Showdown at Retribution set for the Union. Okay, before we get into the build, I'm going to quickly run through what you need material-wise to actually assemble the models. So at the very least, you'll require something to remove them from the sprue, which could be a pair of snips. Some people call them side cutters or flush cutters, just something to allow you to remove the pieces. You could also use a modelling knife for that. If you are going to use a modelling knife, make sure you replace the blade frequently. Keep it sharp. You'll do more damage with a dull blade than you will with the sharp one, because you have to put more pressure behind it. Once the pieces are removed from the sprue, you'll then need to clean them up. Again, you could use the modelling knife. Various companies also do things like seam scrapers or mold line scrapers. It's just an edge that you run down the plastic to remove any excess. You could also use a set of files. So these are needle files or jeweler's files, and you can get them in a variety of shapes. So you can have flat files, curved files, rounded, half and half, variety of shapes. I've had this set for years. They're relatively cheap to get. However, if you don't have a pair of needle files or a set of needle files, if you go to a local chemist or makeup shop, you can pick yourself up little emery boards. These are just a fine grade of sandpaper glued down to a bit of cardboard, and they will do the cleanup as well. Equally good. After you've cleaned and prepared your pieces, you'll need to glue them down. And again, there are a variety of glues. This is Revell's Contacta, and it has a needle to apply. And then the other one is Tamiya's Extra Thin, which has a little brush applicator. Both of them are the same material. It's a polystyrene cement, although sometimes you'll see it listed as plastic glue. You could use super glue, but I wouldn't recommend it. These give you a bit more working time. So if this is your first model and you put something in the wrong place, it's not immediately glued in situ, so you'll be able to have a bit of wiggle room with these. They also have a much stronger bond than super glue when you're using it on plastic models, but they only work on styrene plastic. So those are the tools. After that, you need your model, and for this I've decided to pick the Union's Iron Eagle. I picked this for a couple of reasons. First off, it can be built in multiple ways on this sprue, or from this sprue rather. So this is actually either the Iron Eagle or the Construct Cavalry, and when you look at it, it looks a bit overwhelming. It's a two-piece sprue, lots of options, lots of different things, and it can be a little bit overwhelming when you first see it. However, just follow the assembly guide and it's very straightforward. So when we're kicking off, the first thing to do is get your assembly guide beside you. In my case, it's on a screen beside me. And the first part is the same whether you're going to make the Construct Cavalry or the Union's Iron Eagle, and that is to begin the body sub-assembly. So we're going to start with part 1 and 2. When you're clipping things off a sprue, you can put them flush against. If you don't have the room to do it, bring it back a little bit. It'll mean a little bit more cleanup work for you, but you're less likely to damage any of the model. So just go ahead and clip off the first pieces. Some people like to clip off everything in one assembly. I tend to only clip off what I need. That way you don't lose any parts or get them out of order. So set that to one side. And for this, I'm probably going to use a knife to mostly clean this, but I'll show you how you do it with a file as well. Okay, so if you're going to do it with a knife, get the blade out and lock it in place, and then just go around and any of these little pieces that you haven't removed cleanly from the sprue, you just need to take them off. I'm going to use a knife to clean these up, but I'll also show you with the file as well. So you just go along, and any of these pieces that you have additional plastic from the sprue, you just want to take those off. So in this case, I'll just be working through those. Because this is a new blade, it's very sharp, so it takes off the plastic very easily. That's the first one done. For the second one, with the file or with the emery board, it's exactly the same. Always file in one direction. So the urge is to go back and forward, but files aren't made to go back and forward. You want to just push away across. Until you've removed it. And you just do that again all the way around. Like I say, if you want to use the emery board, it's exactly the same as the file. You just take it off stroke by stroke until you get down to a flat area. I'm not worried about in here because this is a glue point, which you can see from the instructions. Just take the pieces off, bring your glue in, and depending on how thick your glue is, you can either run one bead around it, or in the case of this thin glue, you put a thin layer on both sides. And the two halves just go together. There are little locking lugs, little pegs to keep them aligned. But otherwise, once that's on, you can just set it aside to dry while you move on and do the next part off your sprue. So since everything fits into this, I'll just go ahead and take the next pieces off. So we need the saddle, housing back, front vent, and we can get these cleaned up and glued on before we move on to the next part. Exactly the same process. So all I'm going to do is clean these up and glue them onto the body. When you're putting anything like this together, always read over the instruction at least once before you start. And if you're not sure about something, test fit it before you apply glue. There are a few parts of this build where once you've fitted one piece, it may get in the way of another piece. Things like the front of the bike with the headlight sits on this front, but the handlebars have to go in first. So always have a look at the components and see if you're going to run into any issues like that you may need to take a specific build in a specific order. Measure twice and cut once, as I was told. Again, once these pieces are on, I can set it aside to dry while I work on the next part. Our next pieces are these engine housings. We have two on one side and one on the other. These two smaller parts are interchangeable, so it doesn't really matter where they go, left or right. I always find it easier to move the sprue than to move the clippers. but it's really personal preference. And these pieces have a little bit more cleanup to do than previous pieces, but it is just a case of removing them in the same way, so either with a knife or with a file. You will find a cutting surface like this is particularly handy if you're going to be doing a lot of modelling. Saves damaging the table. Now, with these pieces, you just see there's a little chunk out. That's because it fits on this piece here. So we also have a little notch on this side to lock it into place. So these two side pieces are easier to put into place after the main piece has gone on. And this is very important. And let's see if we can show this. That is not perfectly flat. There is a slight V cut. See how the center is lower than the two sides? If I turn it round, the opposite is true. So this will only fit on with that V cut lining up with this. You see the peak. So I'll be wanting to glue it down that way and not this way round, which will leave me with a big gap and a wobbly engine. However, it's exactly the same as before. Apply the glue around it. And another reason this works better than super glue is it's a chemical bond. It sort of slightly melts the plastic, and then when it dries, the two pieces are practically inseparable. So in this case, I can pop that on, press it down, and get a perfect fit. And then, while I'm here, just do the two side engines. There we are. So we only have two more pieces to put on, and then that's the sub-assembly done. And that is these two pieces here. So I'm not sure whether they're some form of foot plate or stirrup, or they may just be skids to keep it upright. But I'm just going to pop those off, give them a quick clean up, and then glue them on. Simple as that. This mold line you can clean off with a file or a bit of sandpaper if you want. There we go. See, there's a little locking key at the top. So these will only go on one side in one direction. And I just want them aiming towards the rear. And that is the first page of the assembly done. So that is the same whether you're going to build the Union or the Enlightened. So make sure once that's done and out of the way, you turn to the right page in the guide for the next part of your specific assembly. Okay, so to build the specific parts for the Iron Eagle, we're now going to be moving over to the second half of the sprue, which we've not looked at yet. The first thing we need are the Tesla Bots hands. So they are pieces 46 and 47 here. So these two handlebars. Like I say, there are other handlebars, other arms and bodies. You don't need to worry about any of this half. Let's just start with these. And these go into this triangular hole. So these need to go on first. Just clean up the end and clean up the hand where your arm is going to join onto it. While that's drying, I'm just going to take off the next piece, which is our headlight. I'm also going to take off the cow catcher and quickly clean both of those as well. Now here you can see a mold line running around the whole thing. You can file those off, or you can wait until it's built and then see what's actually visible and then remove them. But starting with this front headlight, it fits on and over those two handlebars, which is why it's important you assemble those first. And with that sitting in place, you can then attach the cow catcher. Looking more ready for flight already. We have here we go. So we have two parts on this sprue. They're both the same, and I believe they're both numbered the same as well. Yeah, so it's just an extra space on the sprue that they filled with a duplicate of that piece, so it doesn't matter which one you take off. But these give the readings for the bike, how much speed they're doing, how much range they have left. And it will fit in here just above the handlebars, masking that join. There we go. Had to push it into place with the back of the knife. Our Iron Eagle is pretty much built. All we need to do is add our driver and then the armour. The driver is the next part. And again, it's on this side of the sprue. So we need our Tesla Bot's body, arms, energy coil, the head, and then the two legs here and here. So I'm going to clip all of those pieces off. Since it's a body, I can't really get the legs and arms in the wrong place. And now it's just a case of cleaning them up like before. Quickly point this out. There are two little nubs on top of the body here, but they are actually for these pieces to slot into. So they do need a little bit of cleaning up, but you don't want to remove them altogether or else it won't fit together easily. So always check to make sure you're not cutting off a piece of the model rather than a piece of excess sprue. There's actually a notch to take the body there as well. So if I put one arm on, I should be able to position the hand and the body will hold it in place, and then I can build the rest around it. Back of the hand, on the seat, and then join there, there. And once you have those two bits on, it won't take long for that to dry, so you can start to move on and build the other pieces. Again, shoulder and hand, and here wrist and shoulder. Just maneuver that into place. Then our legs, one hip, not sure if that will sit flat onto those pieces or just in front of. There's a little notch on it as well. There we have it. Our Tesla bot is now on his Iron Eagle, so he just needs weapons and some armor, and that's our final step. Okay, I will take all of these off at the same time because I think there's some overlapping and I'm not sure the best way to assemble them yet. So I need the two side pieces of armor, I need the rear seat cover, and then I need this front armored cowling piece. And then after that, all we have is the weapons. Okay, they're all cleaned up now. So this piece clearly fits at the back of the seat. I don't think it interacts with any other part. Okay, so 4 armored pieces. The simplest is the chair. There's a locking lug here, so it just goes onto that, which isn't too bad. I don't think it interacts with anything else. The side pieces have these notches that actually match this armoured cowling, and it also has this indentation, so it needs to go on first and lock into the back of this. So I'm actually going to give this a very quick clean just to take that slight mold line off. You can see here there's a little divot to fit into the corresponding cutout. So just going to run some plastic glue there, and then on the inside here exactly the same. And that should lock in on top. Press it down till I hear a click. There we are. Then that should allow me to hang these side panels from these two sort of ball joints. And the weapons look like they fit on here and actually go underneath. So I'm very quickly going to grab the weapons. So the back of the gun here has got 2 little grooves that match here, and then there are 2 ball sockets to match the back of the armor plating. So I just want to make sure I've got the right ways round. So longer gun to the top means that is that piece. While that's gluing, just do the other side. And these should be ready to hang. will fit on there. So a bit of glue on each of the spots, and on the other side it's one on, and then pop the back armor plate on to protect the Tesla bot from back shooters, the worst kind of people in the Old West. There we have it. So that is the build almost complete. The only thing you need to do is to mount it. So you'll find the relevant base, and then also a sheet of, or a sprue of these. They're normally called flight stands. So they're clear plastic to make it look as if it's hovering. Do not glue these on to the model directly before the model is painted, because the whole part of it is to make it as seamless as possible. If I grab one of these, and it shouldn't matter which one you use, all it will do is sort of change the height of the vehicle. But this will pop in at the bottom there and allow you to mount it onto its base. So I find it best when I'm doing a flight stand like this to balance the model on it, or put the model on it, glue the bottom and position it on the base so I know where that is going to go. So it's not overhanging. Then I can just lift that off and make sure that that is securely glued. There we have it. The Union Iron Eagle. A long-ish build. The rest of the miniatures are much easier in the set, but if you can get that one, then you've no problem with any of the rest. If you want to take it a step further in your cleanup, you can use the file or the sanding stick like I showed you to remove any mold lines or seam lines that you don't like. But otherwise you're good to go, and stay tuned for some painting videos coming very soon.
Join the Global Gunslinger League and track your progress in the OnTableTop project system for your chance to win one of 2 Wild West Exodus bundles. See the link in the description for more details.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.